Every year, millions of people pack up their gear and head into the deep wilderness. We crave that off-grid serenity, seeking a temporary escape to recharge far away from the noise of modern life. But when you strip away the cell towers, the paved roads, and the people, you also strip away the social contract. In the deep woods, you are entering a vacuum where help is hours away, and the normal rules of society no longer apply. The further you push past the tree line, the more extreme this isolation becomes. Distance from civilization doesn't just reduce your chances of rescue, it amplifies the severity of whatever you encounter out there. In these empty spaces, the greatest threat isn't a grizzly bear or a sudden drop in temperature. It is the human malice that thrives when there are no witnesses to stop it. This is exactly the kind of quiet environment a person moves to when they want to escape the exhausting chaos of a large city. Our hiker settled into this isolated rural town, took a part-time grocery gig, and spent his days exploring the surrounding trails. The locals were welcoming, with one bizarre exception: a man named Hector. He was built like an ox, with a long gray beard, and he spent his days quite literally skipping through town, happily babbling to empty space. The community collectively ignored him, assuming he was harmless. That assumption held up until the hiker ventured several hours deep into an uncharted section of the local woods. He heard voices echoing through the trees, and creeping closer, he found Hector. Only Hector wasn't skipping. He was having a vicious, multi-character argument with himself, rapidly switching between a terrifyingly cruel dominant voice and a weeping, pathetic one. Suddenly, the cruel voice snapped. He's hiding behind the tree. Hector locked eyes with the hiker. His face twisted him into pure rage, and he bolted. He charged through the thick foliage, screaming that the hiker wouldn't get out alive. The hiker barely escaped and went to the local sheriff. She turned white when he described the location. That specific patch of woods was the site where human remains had been found years earlier, and Hector had first appeared in town right around the time of that discovery. When police scoured the area, Hector was gone. Even on the immediate edge of a peaceful town, the proximity to civilization offers no real safety when someone has already committed themselves to the darkness of the woods. To see what happens when you sever those ties to the grid, look at the staggering geographic scale of the mountains in upstate New York. A couple named Artie and Katie hiked multiple days into this vast expanse, completely alone. Their solitude broke in the middle of the first night. Outside their thin nylon tent, heavy, deliberate footsteps were slowly circling their campsite, accompanied by a high-pitched, manic giggle. At dawn, they unzipped the tent to find strange rocks arranged in deliberate, complex formations all over their campsite. They were miles from the nearest trail, yet someone spent the night actively toying with them. On the second night, the stalkers returned. A soft female voice whispered, "Come outside, Artie." Multiple voices began cackling wildly as unseen hands violently shoved the walls of the tent, physically moving the couple as they huddled inside. The assault abruptly stopped, followed by the sound of footsteps retreating into the woods. When Artie unzipped the door at dawn, he saw a young woman in a pristine white dress standing 20 feet away, silently staring and waving. The terror stems from the fact that whoever was out there knew Artie's name and had tracked them for days across miles of wilderness. They were being hunted for sport in a place where no one could hear them scream. True wilderness terror happens when you abandon the trails altogether. 3 friends decided to push into an uncharted, deeply remote section of the woods, far beyond where any hiker would accidentally wander. Hours away from the nearest road, they stumbled across a large, windowless wooden cabin. It was built like a giant shed, with no plumbing, no electricity, and no paths leading to or from it. Constructing a structure this substantial across miles of rugged terrain without access roads requires an immense amount of deliberate, secretive physical labor. This is a place built specifically to remain hidden. They walked into the dry, decaying room to investigate. The space was mostly empty, but as they stood there, a rhythmic dragging sound echoed from right underneath their boots. something was moving beneath the solid floorboards. Penetrating the deepest, most untouched parts of the wilderness can lead you directly into a space claimed by someone else, someone who has gone to great lengths to ensure their presence remains a secret. Kicking through the debris, they found a rusted iron handle set into the floor. Pulling open the trapdoor released the sickening odor of rotting meat. One of the friends descended a ladder into an unnaturally freezing stone-walled cellar. In the pitch black, a man limped out from behind a massive structural beam. He was breathing heavily and dragging his right foot across the cold stone, mumbling foreign words under his breath. The hiker called out, but the man didn't respond. He just stopped, turned his head, and locked onto the intruders with lifeless eyes. When he took a single, deliberate step toward the ladder, the three friends scrambled out of the hole and fled. Encountering a physical and psychological anomaly in utter subterranean darkness bypasses all logic. It triggers a primal survival instinct that demands you leave that space immediately before you find out what those lifeless eyes are looking for. The friends reached town and alerted the authorities, but when police finally hiked out to the cabin, the cellar was entirely empty. There was no man and no physical evidence that anyone had been living in that freezing room. This map plots the three encounters, each deep within a geographic void, where lack of infrastructure makes surveillance impossible. Hector, the woman, and the cellar man vanished into these empty spaces. They moved where there are no witnesses, disappearing without a trace. The woods offer a unique serenity, and they are worth exploring. But as you step past the tree line, remember that the true apex predators in these empty spaces wear human faces, and they are perfectly comfortable in the dark.